Have you ever paused to think about how much historical figures like Julius Caesar, Jesus Christ, or Albert Einstein would owe in taxes if they lived in the United States? It's an interesting concept, right? Let's see where we take some of the most iconic personalities from history and put them through the ultimate modern day challenge: having to deal with California's income tax system or live in any state that doesn't charge income tax. This is a deep dive into the financial realities that they would face if they were part of our tax-paying society today. First on the list is Julius Caesar, the man who not only conquered vast territories, but also amassed an incredible fortune in his lifetime. At the height of his power, Caesar's wealth was estimated to be the equivalent of $5 billion today. Now imagine Caesar walking the streets of modern-day Los Angeles, living in a luxurious mansion overlooking the Pacific waves. He will be dealing with California's top income tax rate, sitting pretty high at 13.3%, combined with the federal tax rate of 37%. This means Caesar would be facing a tax bill of around $2.5 billion. That's right, $2.5 billion, which is nearly half of his fortune. But let's say Caesar was clever enough to relocate to a state without income tax like Florida, Nevada, or Texas. Even then, Uncle Sam would have let him off without taking a piece. He'd still owe around $1.85 billion in federal taxes alone. It's enough to make even a Roman Empire have to sell all of his gold. Now let's go to a figure whose influence transcends time: Jesus Christ. Now we all know that Jesus lived a life of humility and simplicity with no material wealth to his name, but let's put a modern twist on his life. Imagine Jesus as a contemporary spiritual leader, perhaps the world's most influential influencer of all time, drawing millions of followers on social media, publishing best-selling books, and delivering sold-out speeches worldwide. Let's say he pulls in an annual income of $10 million from all of those endeavors. How much would his tax bill look? In California, he'd be looking at handing over about $5 billion of that in income taxes. But if Jesus lived in a state with no income tax like Tennessee, his federal tax obligation will still be around $3.7 million. It's nothing close to one living a simple life, but even the most respected figures wouldn't be safe from the reach of modern tax collectors. Then we have Napoleon, a man whose name is synonymous with military strategy and empire building. Napoleon wasn't just a great general, he was also incredibly wealthy with a fortune that would be valued at around $400 million in today's dollars. Remember that we are adjusting for inflation. Imagine Napoleon being in the Bay Area or Silicon Valley, where we might be investing in tech startups or real estate empires. If you were living in California, the tax man will come asking for about $188 million of his wealth. That's nearly half of his earnings. But if he wisely chose to reside in a state with no income tax, he'll still owe around $148 million in federal taxes. Even in exile, he'll be writing some very large checks to the IRS. Albert Einstein, the genius who fundamentally changed our understanding of the universe, also makes our list. In 1921, Einstein won the Nobel Prize in Physics, which came with a prize of $32,000, a sum that translates to about $500,000 today. Even if Einstein were living in modern California, he'd have to part with about $250,000 of that in taxes. In a state with no income tax, his federal tax bill will still be around $185,000. It's a high price to pay for brilliance, but it shows that not even the most revolutionary minds are beyond the reach of the tax system. Let's not forget Leonardo da Vinci, the ultimate Renaissance man whose works have transcended time. If da Vinci were alive today, his earnings from art, inventions, and intellectual property could easily amount to $50 million annually. Living in California, Leonardo would be required to pay approximately $23.5 million in taxes, even if he resided in a state with no income tax. His federal tax bill will still come in at around $18.5 million. Da Vinci's creativity may have sparked the Renaissance, but there's no escaping the IRS even for a genius of his caliber. Mahatma Gandhi, known for leading India to independence through nonviolent resistance, lived a life of austerity. However, if we imagine Gandhi as a modern-day activist and speaker, his impact might be monetized through speeches and donations, perhaps earning him around $1 million annually. In California, Gandhi would owe about $500,000 in taxes, while in a tax-free state, he'd still face a $370,000 federal tax bill. Even the greatest of champions of freedom would have to grapple with the reality of taxes in today's world. William Shakespeare, the Bard of Avon, whose plays and poetry have delighted audiences for centuries, would also face a hefty tax bill. If he were alive today, imagine Shakespeare earning $20 million annually from his literary works, movie adaptations, and global performances. In California, nearly $9.4 million of that will go in taxes. In a state with no income tax, he will still owe about $7.4 million in federal tax. To tax or not to tax? For Shakespeare, the answer will definitely be to tax. Now, let's look at Martin Luther King Jr., the civil rights leader whose dreams reshaped America. If MLK were earning $500,000 annually from his activism and speaking engagements in today's world, California would claim about $235,000 of that in taxes. In a tax-free state, he'll still owe around $185,000 in federal taxes. Even the dream would come with a tax bill, reminding us that no matter how noble the cause, taxes remain a certainty. Cleopatra, who was known for her intelligence, charisma, and political astuteness, Cleopatra was also incredibly wealthy. If we translate her wealth into today's terms, she might have been worth around $95.8 billion. Imagine Cleopatra navigating the modern world, perhaps as a tech mogul or a global influencer living in a state like California. With her wealth, she'd face a staggering tax bill. In California, Cleopatra would owe approximately $47.9 billion in combined state and federal taxes. If she decided to move to a state without income tax, her federal tax alone will still be around $35.5 billion. Even with her legendary charm, Cleopatra will find it challenging to negotiate her way outside of her tax burden. Isaac Newton, who many would say is the father of classical mechanics, who also dabbled in alchemy and biblical studies, might not have been as wealthy as some on this list, but his intellectual contributions could be monetized today. Suppose Newton was a modern-day scientist and author, earning royalties from his scientific works, textbooks, and perhaps even a popular science TV show, bringing in about $15 million annually. In California, Newton will be looking at a tax bill of about $7 million. If he chose to live in a state with no income tax, his federal tax will still be around $5.55 million. Newton's laws of motion might help him understand inevitability of tax. Genghis Khan, who was the founder of the Great Khan of the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan's wealth and territory were vast. If you estimate his wealth in today's terms, it could be around $100 billion. Imagine him as a modern-day business tycoon or a leader of a multinationality conglomerate. In California, Khan will face a tax bill of about $50 billion. If he chose a state without income tax, his federal tax alone will be around $37 billion. Even the conqueror of empires will find himself conquered by tax obligations. Queen Elizabeth I, who was known for her political prowess and the flourishing of arts during her reign. If Queen Elizabeth were alive today, her wealth will be comparable to that of a modern-day monarch or a billionaire philanthropist, perhaps around $20 billion. Living in California, she'd probably owe approximately $10 billion in taxes. In a state without income tax, her federal tax will still be around $7.4 billion. The Queen would need to strategize her finances as meticulously as she does her politics. So there you have it, historical giants who have shaped the world as we know it, each with a tax bill that could fill an empire's treasury. The government would make more tax revenue if they could track back pay from all these years and charge them in unrealized tax gains while they're at it. From emperors to scientists, artists to activists, none would escape the grasp of modern-day tax system. If they thought ruling kingdoms or leading movements was tough, imagine the challenge of dealing with today's IRS. You need an accountant for sure. Do not try it without consulting a professional. Trust me, I would lose money and I make more when I'm working with my accountant. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more mind-bending comparisons and historical what-ifs. Who knows, maybe next time we'll see how much Cleopatra would owe for her pyramids.